Hello and welcome to another one of my annual roundups of favourite horror films from the last 12 months. Now as always, my criteria is based purely on how much I personally enjoyed these. Now many of these titles have only been released digitally so far, which seems to be getting increasingly common these days, but anyway, in no particular order, first up, Thanksgiving. A wicked black comedy slasher film from Eli Roth about a masked killer terrorising a small town in Massachusetts over the Thanksgiving weekend. Some really over-the-top gory kills, including a hilarious Black Friday sales riot, makes this highly entertaining viewing, and overall I just really enjoyed it. Next, The Wrath of Becky. A sequel to the 2020 film with Lulu Wilson reprising her earlier role as the self-styled vigilante survivalist. Now this time she's going up against Sean William Scott and his gang of neo-Nazi rednecks in revenge for a home invasion. As with the first film, there's some good gory kills, though it is a bit more comical in tone this time than its predecessor, but if you like the first film then you should enjoy this. Another sequel next we have Scream 6, in which Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera join Courtney Cox as they take on another serial killer in a ghost face mask. Now, I'm sure I don't really need to say too much about the plot, as we all know the formula for these films, but you can never have enough sort of teenagers in my view, and it managed to keep me entertained for its duration, so I consider this one a success. Anyway, keeping with the sequel theme, Evil Dead Rise. Another reboot of the Evil Dead franchise, this time set in a rundown tower block whose tenants find themselves battling supernatural forces after an earthquake traps them inside and unleashes something demonic from underneath the building. Now, whilst I'd argue that the original Evil Dead trilogy is still the best, I still enjoyed this, which was a fun film with some nice gore and sets things up nicely for a sequel. Now, going from sequels to prequels, Pearl is the next entry on the list, in which Mia Goth plays the younger version of her old lady character from X, showing her descent into psychopathy while she works on her parents' farm. An interesting film with some nice gory kills. If you've seen X, which made my list the other year, you should definitely check this one out too. Bit of a controversial choice for this next film, which is Exorcist Believer. Now, I know this one came in for a lot of criticism, but I actually rather enjoyed it. It ignores most of the other films in the series, with a plot this time about a group of teenage girls getting possessed and their parents battle to save them. Now, to be fair, this could have been any generic horror film about possession, as the only thing linking this to the other Exorcist films is Ellen Bernstein's character, but I still rather enjoyed it, and it was certainly much better than some of the other god-awful sequels to The Exorcist that have come out before this. Now for something completely different, Dark Harvest. Kind of a cross between Pumpkinhead and The Purge, as each year on Halloween all the teenagers in a small rural town have to try and stop a supernatural killer from reaching the church, otherwise it will bring destruction to the town. A very darkly themed film which had a very Stephen King feel to it, being set in the late 50s, early 60s in a rural farming town, with some interesting twists. Another change of pace now with my next choice, Unwelcome. A very bizarre British horror comedy about a young couple from London that move over to Ireland to get away from the criminal street gangs, only to find something more deadly that's inhabiting the nearby woods. Kind of a cross between Straw Dogs and Leprechaun, as the young couple fall afoul of some cowboy builders, who themselves fall afoul of whatever's lurking in the woods during the end confrontation. This is quite an enjoyable feature with a surprisingly good cast, which included Star Trek's Colm Meaney and Game of Thrones' Christian Nairn. Next up is a film that almost made my top spot this year, which is the indie horror Night of the Hunted, in which a young woman on a business trip finds herself being pinned down by a sniper inside a remote petrol station during the early hours of the morning. A very suspenseful film which is extremely engaging despite being set almost entirely in one place and for the most part only featuring one person as she attempts to dodge the sniper fire. Saw this one at the Mayhem Film Festival in Nottingham and it went down extremely well with the audience. Now, I think this one was a Shudder exclusive, but you can also get it from Amazon now, so I definitely recommend giving this one a go. So that brings me on to my choice of favourite film for 2023. Now again, this is probably a controversial choice, and some might dispute that this is actually a horror film, but my personal choice of favourite horror of 2023 is Cocaine Bear. Loosely based on a true story, this is about a group of backpackers that unwittingly find themselves running not only from a group of drug dealers that are trying to recover a large stash of drugs from the woods, but also a large grizzly bear that's found the stash and is now on a drug-fueled murderous rampage. I cannot recommend this film highly enough. 90 minutes of pure entertainment of this bear eating its way through the cast, including a hilarious scene involving an ambulance crew. I mean, what's not to love? Also notable as being one of Ray Liotta's final films, who died shortly before its release, but even so, this one definitely gets a thumbs up from me. So, that's it for my pick of this year's films. Let us know your opinion on these in the comment section below, as well as telling us what films you think I should have included. Before I go, you might remember I did a behind the scenes feature for an indie horror called Video Shop Tales of Terror the other year. Well, it had its premiere at last year's Horror on Sea Festival, and it went down an absolute storm. It also proved so popular when screening at the Romford Horror Festival that they had to put on additional screenings to cope with the demand. Now, there's no news on when it will get a streaming release yet, but they have released a limited edition Blu-ray, which is being used to fund the sequel. But hopefully this one should get a general release soon. I'd like to also mention that the filmmakers have just completed another film, Mosaic, which features some of the same characters from this, that will be premiering at this year's Horror on Sea Festival, so if you're going to that, be sure to check that one out. I'll put links to all these in the bar below if you want to know more, but that's all for me for this year. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And I'll just leave you now by saying a very happy horror-filled new year to you all, and I'll see you in the next video.